their immediate family, so they don't do well around other humans or other animals.
Yeah, they haven't been socialized.
And
Like,
it is
they're
up to
very
the
well
chap.
trained for the house. They just don't know how to handle anyone else. It's like,
And
now we
welcome
have
to
the
the
house.
stream.
Exactly. I can't handle anyone else. Hello.
Hello, Jeb. I will not explain what we were talking about. That is homework. Yeah. Well, hi. Welcome to Project Via stream. God, it's been ages since we've done one of these. Also, why is it like... Oh, God's sake. Computers are doing things. How dare.
I didn't realize I had to log in. I'm an anonymous chick right now.
Ooh. Lovely.
You're yellow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back to Forcom.
Hooray. So, every time I move away, it's using a different browser. Everything's weird. This is all set up for a previous browser, and now it's not. Terrible. Anywho.
Previous browser?
Previously, on browser. Apparently, CC just thinks I was dissing Halo for some reason. So hopefully Lewis isn't here. Yeah, it's the VIA. It's Adrian von Ziegler being too loud with bagpipes again, as is tradition. We're back, and we're doing weapons, as I recall. I believe the prompt was weapons last time.
Yep.
Which is probably give you an indication of how much I've done with the prompt. Yeah. I did actually try to do some stuff off screen.
I mean, weapons is one of those things where, on one hand, it's sort of easy, but on the other hand, it's sort of hard. Because it's like, it's easy to just say, oh yeah, we can use these things. But it's hard to come up with something, like, imaginative. Because it's like, oh, just a sword. We use a sword. Okay. Like every other sword.
Yeah, but was the sword forged out of an old ladle? There you go. Try and design a sword that was hurriedly forged from a ladle.
I don't know if you'd get enough metal off of a regular ladle for maybe
it might be a weird shaped sword. That's all I'm saying.
A round sword.
Oh, I'm just thinking like thickness, because swords. So when it comes to swords, there's sort of two parts physics-wise that make it with cutting. One, sharp edge. Two, the weight. And I don't know if you've ever held a sword, but they weigh more than a kitchen ladle.
You can attach some cans of soup to the side.
To make it heavier.
Yeah. Give it a bit of momentum, you know? Am I gonna make the soup night? Is that a thing?
Soup night.
Soup night.
What in this store? What it was like a pot or something. What am I remembering?
Oh, there was the soup head guy.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Pothead.
what's the soup?
I don't recall what Pothead's weapon was. It's probably just a generic sword. But I would go for a sword fashioned from a ladle and 2 cans of soup.
I mean, you could probably get enough metal to make a decent weapon off of a cast iron pot or something, but I don't know if cast iron is the best material to use for swords either.
I did stipulate that this thing was made in a hurry, so I don't think people are worrying too much about longevity. Also, the weapon I came up with last time was a wreath, so...
It was dope.
I'm going to try and come up with a nice design for that. I'm still not entirely sure of the balance of flower to thorn, because this is being wielded by death, so... I don't want it to just be a ring of thorns. Yeah. Other than that, what else? What did everyone get? Everyone got the forest. Okay, so we can come up with some fun forest ideas. A horde of ferrets.
I mean, weapon is a lot of things.
Oh, hang on. The frog has disappeared.
What?
Stop drawing. The frog has disappeared. Oh, you're back. You're back. Don't worry.
Yay!
I don't want you to lose anything again.
Thank you.
We did.
Weird alert system now. It's the frog is gone.
Red alert! Red alert! The frog has disappeared. Sound the klaxons. It's just riveting.
It's forest sounds that make you fall asleep.
Yeah, not an ideal klaxon, really.
Exactly.
Oh, we replaced the klaxon with a New Age CD, and everyone just sort of fell asleep in the fire. It's terrible.
You do fall asleep in a fire.
Very warm. I assume this has like select bits of flowers on it. Maybe sort of berry-esque things. Bloodberries, sure.
We have a lot of blood themes.
Well, I got limbo, so there's a lot of blood going on there. Ever since, because we sort of came up with this whole thing of like the pools of blood. I know, ha ha, isn't it funny? The character drinks it. And then we just sort of carried it on. And by the time we got to blood bees, we're like, okay, this is the blood place now.
It was only at the blood piece, not before.
Well, there were a couple of the bits of bloods, but there's also like poppies and strange ephemeral spirits floating around. But now there's no blood. Much blood.
I mean, we already had blood pools.
They were in the rest of the world. Like I say, it's not the bees that did it, but they were the bee that broke the camel's back.
There's a small camel.
Or a big bee.
Ooh.
A bee that chose not to fly, apparently. You know, a flying thing breaks your back. That's very rude. You can fly, bugger off. I'm not going to carry you.
And there are lots of things that can fly that are pretty heavy.
Anything like that. Silhouette.
Like, have you seen how large vultures are? Dear Lord.
What is?
Vultures.
Vultures.
Big birds that eat, well, pretty much anything. Any sort of meat, regardless of how fresh it is.
I have not. The only vultures I have seen were in the Jungle Book and Robin Hood.
Well, also condors. Condors are also very large.
The only condor I've seen is from Final Fantasy VII. All of my bird knowledge is from games and films. That's not true. My garden's full of birds. Not many condors or vultures, though. Mostly sparrows. Sparrows and starlings.
Is a mouse white a bird?
Mouse white? I don't
I was
know.
going to say I saw a musquito eating a blackbird today, so I Google translated, and it says mouse white.
Apparently it's called a mouse bird.
Oh.
Which makes sense. They look cool.
Yeah.
You saw one eating a blackbird.
Yeah.
That would be a bird, not a mouse bird. Wait, hang on, what? Hang on, I'm going on a tangent here.
Okay, here's the thing. That's a
Is it?
California condor being released by a couple of
Ooh.
zookeeper type.
Holy Whoa, those people are tiny, I hope.
Probably not. They're probably normal-sized people. This is a big boy.
Yeah, California condors are huge. And their wingspan is very huge.
Very big. It's the wingspan is as tall as somebody crouching down, by the looks of it, or double that, I guess. So it's probably as tall as somebody stretching out. Yes, I, however, googled mouse white, and I found this, which is a white mouse on Amazon. But what caught my eye is that this is described as a lady's mouse. The lady's wireless optical mouse. Why? Looks nice. I'll have this. I'm not a lady, but I'll have it. Apparently, it's illegal for me to have this.
Dumb as the his and her calculators
you can
that
have
I
it
saw
as
in
a
like
pet.
the 80s.
Yeah, very stupid.
It's a lady's pet.
It's lady. So this just distracted me.
It's like people who
Husbands
think
away. Keep your
Yeah,
husbands away, ladies.
don't understand the for him type things. It's all marketing.
That was the third result in when I specifically when I searched for mouse white bird. Mouse white was one word as well. They split it up to get that. Anyway, the mouse bird. I should probably show a picture of a mouse bird. For the sake of completion. There's quite a lot of different types apparently. That's a titmouse. This one looks grumpy. I like this one. Look at that one.
I know there's a type of bird that looks like a songbird and kills field mice by impaling them on spikes.
Oh, lovely.
on human-made spikes.
I mean, if they're available, maybe. I've mostly seen it on like thorns.
Ah.
Yeah, the rotisserie bird. I'm supposed to be watching TV all day. They're tired. They need a rest. I'll put this in chat as well, just for the sake of it. Cool. Are you drawing anything, Ragdoll? I can't see anything.
That's because I've not put anything with them yet. I
Oh,
was
no,
looking
that's
up
fine.
pictures of California condors.
That's fine. I just wanted to check. You know how
And
glitchy
trying to
this can
find
be.
one that had a human in it, because a lot of them is just, here's a California condor with other California condors, and that doesn't really give you a good idea of the scale.
You were trying to find a picture with a human in it, not a condor with a human in it.
Yes.
I was like, I know they're big.
I mean, they'd probably eat a human. Like I said, they'll eat. I mean, they're scavenger birds. They'll eat just about anything that's dead. So I guess if you're out there and you're dead enough, and they can get at your flesh, this is a lovely conversation to be having.
Hey, this is a weapon-themed stream, so you know, whatever that means.
Birds are weapons, yeah. I mean, yeah. Let's see.
They weaponize their mouth. A big, sharp. Actually, quite a lot of animals have weaponized their mouth, haven't they? With teeth.
And weapons.
Oh, like Jaws from James Bond.
I mean, I know, like, war clubs with shark teeth in them is a thing, but also shark regularly shed their teeth, and birds don't really shed their beaks.
Doesn't the puffin shed its beak?
It does.
I think so. Hang on.
Maybe?
If I typed in puffin beak and it automatically said the next word should be shed.
Well,
Well, that just means a lot of people have Googled that, not that it is a thing.
True, yes. Beak. All puffin species are predominantly black or black and white plumage, stocky build, and large beaks that get brightly coloured during the breeding season. They shed their colourful outer parts of their bills after the breeding season, leaving a smaller, duller beak. So that not the whole beak, so it's evidently just an outer part. But...
Okay, so it's sort of sounds like it's sort of like with horns with sheep, where they've got sort of an inner core and then an outer part that falls off every so often.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Puffins look really
I just
goofy.
know that most birds don't really shed their beak. I mean, like, parts of it will chip off, but that's sort of like with your fingernails.
Did they say this one? I'm trying to find a picture of one. Oh, here's one. Oh no, that's a baby one. Baby puffins are also called pufflings.
Aww.
That's a spare fact. There's no good pictures of them without. Everyone just wants to take pictures of the cool beaks.
I mean,
Well,
fair.
Homework. Google puffins dull beaks. Or not, as the mood may fancy. What? As you fancy, as the mood may take you. Those two things got mixed up in my head. And you fancy a mood now.
I mean, you can make me believe anything is a saying.
In Britain, it probably is.
I mean, I grew up in the American Mid-South. There are some very strange turns of phrase you hear.
Oh yeah, there was a nice Tumblr thread going around of the various southern USA sayings. Colourful, I like them. Humans using language in creative ways. It's always fun. I was going to say something there, and it's gone. So aren't I a great conversationalist? Oh, that was it.
It's
Yeah.
just as good.
Sayings. Are you familiar with the phrase "stone the crows"?
No, but that gives more meaning to a murder of crows now.
Well, presumably you're murdering the crows. I don't know. But this is one of those things that I had never heard. I'd never heard this expression until very recently. But the person who said it was amazed that I'd never heard it. That it was just something they hear all the time. I think it's just an exclamation of surprise. Just to say, "Oh, stone the crows, what's that?" Or whatever, I don't know. But it's apparently an expression that is very common that I have not heard didn't hear for the first 29 years of my life or whatever. The crows murder you after you stone them. That's true. Yeah, you try and stone a crow. It ain't gonna be happy about it.
Only fair.
Thoroughly understandably.
I mean, I do know that crows share information about asshole humans, and we'll get revenge. So.
They smart.
Yeah,
Crows are
apparently
cancelling
scientists
humans.
regularly have to wear masks and switch out the mask because they will recognize their face and also recognize their mask.
Woke crows cancelling humans. Love it. I think that might be the first time I've ever said the word woke out loud. It's a ridiculous word. We don't even need it for its original, then we have awoken for that. Or awakened.
Woketh.
Oh, lag. Oh, I got a bit of lag there. What's going on? Oh, lag. Nice. My computer fancied a bit of lag there. Don't think you've ever used the word woke. You don't need to. Ooh. That's a big bee. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, what's the? Oh, okay, this makes more sense now. when I looked at the cave old timey harpoony thing, it only had the head, and I wanted to ask you how it was a harpoon. This makes a lot more sense now.
Yes.
I feel like the only people you ever see using the word woke are people complaining about it. I've only heard it as a really quite feeble insult. Who's this? Who's this friend made of lines?
Just drawing a really fuzzy bird.
Oh,
Beep.
look at him.
We were talking about pufflings, and I was like, you know what?
This is in Project Via, and they are a quest giver. That's all I know.
Just fuzziest little downy feathers all over the place.
That was another one I didn't get when I was younger. Was in the Final Fantasy series of games, there is an item that you use to revive people who are on the brink of death. It's called Phoenix Down. And it took me a very long time to realize that it's the down feathers of a phoenix.
Oh. Is that
Yeah.
spelled that way?
Yeah.
That's stupid.
I assume it is that because they didn't have enough characters to write feathers in the old games.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of shortenings that are present because there's just only so much character space. Because with some of those old games, every bit, and I do mean bit as in the computer science bit, as in a single digit, a single 1 or 0, counts. As far as getting your memory, having memory and storage space.
My favorite ones is when they get clever with it, because obviously the original games, the original Final Fantasy games were in Japanese, and you can fit a lot more in a single character in Japanese than you can in English. So as a consequence, you've got to be a bit more economic with space because things are laid out in order to fit information in a Japanese number of characters. And so with the English ones, you've got to be a bit more squishy. But my favourite ones is in the old games where they used to have a single... They used to basically augment the alphabet with hybrid letters. And so you would have like an L and an A in one space so that you could write the word black in 4 characters. It's B, then the LA character, and then C, then K. And you just see that all over the place, and it's really cool. Because what we lose in space with the English language, we make up for in number of characters. Because we don't need many. We just have to use a lot of them in any given instance.
How big,
So we can-
big is the Japanese alphabet?
Which one?
Trick question. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
The longest one.
Hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana and katakana are akin to what we would think of as an alphabet. They are phonetic, roughly. And they're basically overlapping, but they're used for different things. But then you have the kanji, which is...
Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to say, then you have the kanji, which is the one which is essentially evolved pictographs, evolved indeed through another language, which is an interesting bit of history. And there are thousands of those.
Like
So-
kanji is like the grown-up language.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
The fun thing
from
is
my-
there are even some grown-ups that don't know a lot of kanji. Like, you're still learning kanji symbols all the way through high school because there's so many.
but it's like the snobbery kind of real adults know kanji.
Also, probably it is kanji. That's another one I've never said out loud. I was in my head I say kanji, but knowing the Japanese alphabet is ka, not ka. Kakigukeko,
But yeah,
etc.
kanji is each symbol represents an idea. And you can stack them together to represent various ideas. And you can have various kanji characters that are characters within themselves. So, like, with some kanji, it's easier to understand them if you get the idea of, like, oh, this is an evolved pictograph. So, like, the kanji for forest, which is
I was
its own
about to say,
kanji, is small versions of the kanji for tree all stacked together.
That's adorable.
Did it make sense?
So yeah, you get stuff like that. But yeah, since it is each character represents an idea, the fun thing with kanji, and this is true for Japanese and the related alphabet in Chinese, there's overlap there. It's complicated. Don't ask. I'm not an expert in East Asian history. How they're pronounced has changed over time. So you know how, like, you try and read some old poems that have been translated and they just don't work well in the translated language? Same thing here, except it's the same language. We have this old poem written in, like, 200 BC, and it's written in kanji, so we can read it and understand the concepts written in it because we use the same characters. But the flow of the poem has changed because we pronounce it differently. It doesn't work out loud anymore.
But it does work if you, like... I'm guessing the average person can't make it work if you read it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can read it and understand the concept being put here, but, like, if you've got something where there's supposed to be if it's supposed to be a spoken thing where there's a certain tone and inflection and tempo that goes with it, it doesn't quite work anymore because we say the words differently now. The kanji still means the same thing. It's just pronounced differently now. So that's fun. So it means that their old texts are readable but also unreadable. Well, readable but not speakable, I should say.
Yeah.
So we know the ideas that are present, we just don't know what they would have... Well, actually, we sometimes do know what they would have sounded like if you're a historian and you know better, but the average person doesn't know what it would have sounded like. But
JB,
yeah,
what does it sound like?
And then hiragana and katakana are each symbol represents a sound. And so that's why in Chinese and Japanese you have people where they have multiple spellings of their name. It's like, here's my name in kanji, here's my name in hiragana, whichever one is used for their main one. I can never remember which one's which.
For foreign loan words is katakana.
Katakana.
So probably that one.
Oh.
But also it leads to some fun things, like you could have some combinations of kanji where they would be spelt the same in hiragana, because you make the same mouth sounds to say them, quote unquote, but it's a different set of kanji. which leads to a
Yes.
lot of puns that don't make sense in English.
That's the best part with the asterisks at the bottom of anime when they when something doesn't make sense and there's like
Yeah.
like an asterisk basically saying this makes sense in Japanese. Shut up.
Yeah, it's a pun.
Wasn't
So
there?
like there's one in anime that I remember distinctly because it comes up a lot in the show itself. Bleach.
Hmm?
With the Soul Reapers with the black kimonos and the swords going around
The
dealing with
Shinigami?
the Shinigami. The main character in that, his name is Ichigo.
Yeah.
And his nickname amongst his friends is Strawberry, because Ichigo is a word for strawberry. However, his name spelt in kanji is Ichigo, using the symbols for first son.
Oh.
So he's the first son, but because of how his name is spelt in kanji and how it's pronounced, you just say his name out loud and everyone goes, oh, so he's a fruit. He's a strawberry.
That has a lot of meanings, names in Japanese.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
all kinds
we
of puns.
we have equivalents with, like, you know, dick. Less tasteful, but it's an equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one's also the result of this used to be a perfectly acceptable way of doing nicknames, and then euphemisms changed.
That's fair. Oh, I still haven't read the Tomatonio, which is not going to
What?
make sense to people who weren't. I've just realised neither of you two were in that conversation. Uh, Kiro introduced us to a series of short stories in the Tales games, called The Adventures of Tomatonio, which I think is a series of kids' stories about a sentient tomato, and I really want to read them because they sound very silly.
Yeah, that sounds like Tales. The Tales series have a lot of. There's this big epic adventure going on with all of these existential questions of like meaning of life and whatnot. And then you have cows with a Z off to the side. And it's a
Nice.
person, a very small person dressed up in a cow suit.
Oh.
I immediately thought of. Hang on.
I thought literal cows.
Nope. Cows with a Z, person in a cow suit. Cats with a Z, person in a cat suit. So you just have these ridiculous things going on off on the sidelines, and it's like, what?
I was thinking of this. Perfectly ordinary cows.
Yeah, normal cow.
Yes. Best cow.
I should probably actually explain what I'm drawing for people who didn't know what I was doing on the last stream. Coming up with weapons, I got Limbo, and I was trying to think of weapons that Life and Death would use in their boss fight. And Life is going to have a thorn whip, and I thought it would be nice if Death had a sort of spell casting thing that wasn't a wand or staff or whatever, and I came up with a wreath. So they cast spells through a wreath. I did a doodle of it, if I remember correctly. Did I put that on the thing? I did.
Which, the word wreath is just...
Very rough doodle.
That's just bullying foreigners.
It's fine. I can come up with worse.
Oh, I know you can. I've seen some of the worst that you've shown us.
Some nice place names, etc. And people's names.
Although at least with the place names and people names,
Little...
some of that can be blamed on the fact that English is a Germanic language that had Latin imposed on it. And what's funny is, as far as I'm aware, the Latin rules and grammar that got imposed onto the English language were set by two people. There was one Roman guy and one of his... Technically it was slave, but slave meant something a little different in Rome than it does in modern time. And yeah, basically the gentleman did some orating, the slave wrote it down and imposed his own, and put down some punctuation into it, and that's where our grammar rules come from.
Well, I'm glad we have somebody specific to blame.
Yeah.
But there's also the fact that 1,500 years later, roughly. No, hang on. Sorry, 1,000 years later. There's always two dates I get mixed up: 1066 and 1666. Yeah, roughly 1,000 years later, we got Latin again via French. So then we ended up with two lots of Latin, but by that point, the Latin had changed into French. So it was a different Latin.
Latin had changed into French?
Yeah, French.
And Latin had changed into a lot of things by that.
Yeah. By the year 1066, a lot had, Rome wasn't an empire anymore.
So basically, and I don't remember the exact dates where it was mainly a thing, because not a history major, and most of the history we were taught was U.S. history on account of the fact that I'm from the U.S.
Chibi, help.
But there was basically a time frame where the British royalty was actually the French royalty.
Mm-hmm. We were invaded by the Normans. So technically not French, Norman. But they spoke a dialect of French.
Yeah, well, that's where the French comes from. So basically, French was the language of the aristocracy, and English was the language of the average Joe lay people.
And that is why a lot of the words that we have for food come from the French, but a lot of the words that we have for the animal that the food comes from the Germanic roots.
That's also why a lot of the words we have for like official government stuff, where you look at it and go, this spelling doesn't make any sense, it's because it's a French word.
It's interesting, because a lot of words you're like, but according to the rules, that's not how it should be spelled.
There are no rules.
It's because English is a Frankensteinian monster of like 4 different languages at least.
English is the language equivalent of Stockholm Syndrome. It's been invaded so many times. French was the lingua franca, the most spoken language in Europe not that long ago, but it was the language of the aristocracy throughout all of Europe. Nice. Wasn't there a period of time... One of the facts that I vaguely remember, and as a consequence I'm probably remembering it slightly wrong, is that there was a time when in France, French, as the dialects that we know of as French, was not the lingua franca of France.
I mean, I mostly just find it funny that lingua franca literally means French language.
Yeah. And it's like, you're in the country of France, the lingua franca was not French. It was a different dialect. I like silly facts like that. But it might also be wrong, because I'm bad at remembering facts.
Well, that's why you have the fact book, right?
That's why I have the book. so that they can tell me the facts and I don't have to remember any.
And speaking of the fact book,
Ah! Another book! Oh god, it's under another book. This is poor planning. Ow, the other book fell on my foot.
Oh, that should have had a comedic sound.
We went thump. Is that a comedic sound?
Yes.
Ah, my toe hurts. This is a good fact. It better be bloody good. When the 1964 Winter Olympics were threatened by a lack of snow, the Austrian army carried 40,000 cubic meters of it to the top of the ski slopes.
Oh my god. Humans, what the fuck? Why?
Yeah, there's
I
nothing else
mean,
to do
it
in
wouldn't be the
1964, I
first
guess.
time people transported ice across long distances.
No, that was yeah.
But the military?
Well, who else are you going to get to do it? What is it with the
I have
Olympics
been-
and just having weirdest facts? Because it's the Olympics.
I have been through the weirdest emotional roller coaster of loving people when I got up this morning, hating people to the bone at mid-afternoon, and now I'm like, yeah, people are stupid, huh?
Oh yes. There is a
People
universal
are
constant.
inventive, which sometimes means being stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, inventive at stupidity.
What's the potentially apocryphal quote of Einstein? Two things I know to be infinite: the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the first one. Again, probably apocryphal, but almost all quotes attributed to Einstein or Churchill usually are.
I'm such an idiot that you saying apocryphal just makes me immediately think of nothing but the jokes of Trophy with that show Fate Apocrypha or something like that. The anime.
I've heard of that.
The bit.
Yes, Fate.
Ah.
See, Fate is interesting to me because it's become fairly wildly popular, which fair. It's got an interesting premise, and you can do all sorts of things in that universe. But for those of us who know its origins, it's just really funny to see it being this big mainstream anime with fighting games and story-driven games and RPGs and whatnot. Because for those of you who don't know, the Fate series started off as an erotic visual novel.
It's
Not where I thought you were going with that.
it's a shonen action like sword Hunger Games thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's now sort of shonen anime type thing. You've got like historic characters from various time frames. You can still see like various aspects of like pulled over from its time as an erotic visual novel. Like their tendency to turn various historic figures into waifus. But yeah, it started life as an visual novel. Which is just really funny to me.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things that is like suiting of a genre in its own right, like something like there's so many manga out there or visual novels that is the genre that anime ended up as to begin with. But no, they take like how much work to rewrite that.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, they actually didn't have to do much, because the thing you have to realize about a lot of erotic visual novels is a lot of them have a really neat story premise behind them. It's just that they will also then go, right, and now we are going to make an excuse to also have a sex scene in it. It's just that for Fate, there was a fairly easy way to sort of edit out the premise for why the sex scenes randomly happen, by basically just going, we're not going to bother and explain much about how magic transfer happens between the human and the servant that they summon. We can just sort of gloss over that instead of saying, oh, yes, we're going to transfer the magic directly, as it were.
Part of my brain is trying to work out what you're referring to, and the other part of my brain is desperately trying not to. So.
I'm just speechless.
That's probably the right way to
I
go.
mean, if you want to, I can explain in ways that are not explicit. But if we do not care, we can also just move
on. Needless to say, that's not what I meant by apocryphal. So it has like historical characters. I guess that is why it's called apocrypha, right? Oh god, another fact. I didn't drop anything on my foot this time. It'll be a bad fact.
Aww.
Can't find the page. It's embarrassing because they're in numerical order. If butterflies eat road salt, which is apparently a thing, the males become more muscular and the females get bigger eyes and brains. There you go. The weird consequence of eating salt.
I'm not
Specifically
sure with that information.
Bodybuilder butterfly.
Bodybuilder butterflies.
Try saying that 10 times fast.
Butterflies. Yeah, exactly. I was about to.
If there aren't any female bodybuilders out there, just go and lick a road.
Lick a road.
No, wait, hang on, male bodybuilders. If anyone, is there a job where you're better if you have big eyes? I'm not sure there is. And anyone want to be an anime waifu?
Actress.
Anyone want to be the next Akira? The person to play the battle angel. I've exhausted my knowledge of big-eyed people.
Actually, maybe I should go lick a road. I want big eyes. Pretty baby eyes.
Do you reckon if a butterfly licks enough road, they become a beholder?
The beauty flies in the eye of the beholder?
Yeah, that works. I give that a pass. Because I'm not qualified to give it any more specific grade than that. I'm not even really qualified to give it a pass, to be honest. This is a back alley pass.
Back alley pass. Is that a pass you get in a back alley, or a pass to go through the back alley?
I don't know. Depends on the context, I guess.
It's a comedic, the comedic back alley of life. Comedic back alley school. I'm trying to think of Top Cat. Is that called the
Top Cat.
same thing? Yeah, it is. Top Cat. They did everything in that back alley.
They were alley cats.
Yeah. Which was very confusing to a person who didn't know big city alleys were a thing.
This is taking ages.
Or city cats for that matter.
Yes, city cats do in fact exist, and they talk with that accent.
Oh, do they have like a New Yorkian accent in English?
I don't really know. I'm not very good at identifying American accents. Also, it's been a very long time since I watched Top Cat.
I love Top Cat.
I'm trying to think of it, and I'm just hearing Yogi Bear.
I hate, for some reason, I had this weird bad reaction to Yogi Bear. It gave me like the chills. I always went out of the room when that came on.
How strange.
Very strange. But Top Cat, that was my jam.
Ever since discovering just how big Donald Duck is in the Netherlands, I'm suddenly very intrigued as to how various cartoon characters are presented in various places.
Well, I know there's a lot of things that weren't popular in the United States that for some reason got super popular in like Japan and Korea.
That just makes me think of the Todd in the Shadows thing. Big in Japan.
Todd
It's
in
a
the
thing.
Shadows?
He's a music reviewer.
Oh.
And documentarian, I guess. On YouTube. And he does a lot of little documentaries about people who had one-hit wonders. And invariably it turns out that they had more than a one-hit wonder, and they were big in another country other than America. And so frequently did the phrase "big in Japan" come up that I think he ended up getting a "big in Japan" button.
Needs to be a sticker. That same thing. I figured out that's actually many years ago now. A Danish one-hit wonder made it big in Russia and moved there apparently and had this big music career. I was like, no wonder we never heard from you again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually one-hit wonders aren't truly one-hit wonders. It's just that there's only one thing that most people knew them for.
Yeah.
But it's always funny when it's like, oh, they were also super, super, super popular on the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
The one I found really strange, as a Brit, was he did one on The Darkness. And as far as I'm concerned, they are not a one-hit wonder at all. Like, they had like 4 big hits with their first album, and then a bunch of other ones from subsequent stuff. It's like, I guess in America, you only cared about the one.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's why part of his rules aren't necessarily they only had one hit. It's they're only known for one song, or at least in the United States.
That is the line, yes. We're only known for one song. Yeah, the most recent one was on the Macarena, and that was quite interesting. The tortured release history of that song. It got released like 10 times before anyone actually picked up on it.
I just have so many memories from school with that song.
That's what a lot of the video is about, is the fact that it was just a sort of weird cultural phenomenon that just went everywhere. It invaded schools and politics and...
no.
Everybody knew it. Everybody danced it.
I'm really glad I wasn't aware of politics at that time. Because Jesus, there must have been a lot of cringe.
Oh yeah. There's plenty in the video if you want to watch that.
Oh. No.
I also like the people who did the song, the two original artists who had a song. You know, it was just a random song that they released, and then was it like 5-6 years later, something like that, after many re-releases by other people that had remixed it and added stuff and changed it. It got big, and they were just like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, they're just a couple of older Spanish gentlemen who are just kind of like, I don't know what this is. Can't even dance. They're just sort of shuffling.
Oh yeah, they couldn't do it. Forgot about that.
Aww.
Because they've got their shtick. They big, slam the button, big in Spain. And I think they'd already released like another album or two since they first released that song. By the time it got popular,
I mean, if they got a share of the profits, then like, yay.
I'm assuming that I feel bad for the people who remixed the song just before the one that got released, because it's almost identical. They just added they added the verses essentially. They took the music wholesale from the previous remix and just stuck a verse on it. And that
that sucks.
and the people who released the previous remix got nothing.
That's not that.
Feels real bad.
How can that be legal?
Because the
Music industry, baby.
Yeah. Love that. Love that about it. I have copied an old Iron Age weapon and slapped some rope on it, some pearls, and an arrowhead. Am I done?
It looks good. I like it. It looks it looks different to anything I've seen before, and that's cool.
Oh, it does?
I've never seen something like that.
Guess you haven't seen what I've seen. Yay!
Yay!
Ooh, long French lily.
Yeah, I'm trying to like design a sword that looks very
ornate.
Yeah, ornate and also like flowery, like something
Perfect.
forest area.
When I say French lily off the bat.
It's got a fleur de lis sort of thing.
Yeah, that was sort of the shape I was starting.
Yeah.
And maybe
that's interesting.
Maybe some intricate like vine designs on it or something.
Those are hard.
I like drawing vines.
And then I just scooch a tiny bit to the right, and then, oh, flowers and vines.
I've been doing this for so
long. I was
long.
about to say how much I hate intricate like patterns and stuff, because at some point I personally can't distinguish one piece of it from the other. How do you keep track of all of these twiggies?
When I was a kid, we in my primary school, which I, sorry, I didn't know whether that translated to international schooling systems. We had a little library, and the library was organized from front to back of like easiest reading to hardest reading. And I was an academically fortunate child, and as a consequence, I was expected to do a lot of reading from the back. However, at the front of the library were puzzle books, and they were a lot more fun. And they had all the wibbly wobbly windy things, follow the path, follow the line that goes through this thing. And there was one that was like a choose your own adventure, but it wasn't a choose your own adventure. It was solve the puzzle and go to the page that your solution goes to. And the more right answers you got, the better ending it was, which is kind of an interesting kind of an interesting premise. Anyway, that's how I do all this, because I did a lot of that as a kid. And I just remember the first time I remember thinking that an adult was wrong was when somebody told me I shouldn't be reading those books and I should be reading something else. I'm like, no,
I'm
screw
happy
you.
you just thought you're wrong instead of okay.
I know. That's the first memory I have of thinking, disagreeing with an adult.
Yeah.
Like, screw you. It's got puzzles.
Good
These are
thing
cool.
you did. I went to the front. We had that kind of organizing as well, with the easiest in the front, and that's where the craft books were. And I always hoarded all of the craft books. It was so that in the smaller classes, before I got like very socially anxious, everyone at school, it was it only had 6 grades. Oh, by the way, we usually have all of the grades in one big chunk over here. There's not like 2 separate primary or elementary and high school. So it was a very small school, and everybody knew who to go to if they wanted to borrow a craft book and it wasn't there, because then I had it. And I probably had it for 6 months already.
Marvelous.
See, that to me, so I know people who do library things, so to me that mainly just tells me that the the teachers you were dealing with did not understand what was going on. Because as far as organized from quote-unquote easiest to hardest, that's in terms of... Okay, so there's a couple of different things that might be going on. One, so in the United States, we have this thing called AR, or Accelerated Reader, which is basically a thing to try and encourage kids to read books, and different books are worth different points, and it's worth more points if it's a more difficult book, quote-unquote. But because the people who set these aren't necessarily people who are, like, reading experts, and it's sometimes just someone's parent who has been given a list of things, and it's like, if it meets this criteria, it goes in this bin. And sometimes that criteria is how many words is in the book, and also open to a random page and see what the longest word is on that page. And so if you have a book that doesn't have a lot of pages with a lot of words in them, and those words aren't quote-unquote complicated words, it will get marked as an easier book. Even if the point of the book isn't, this is a novel, we're reading things, the point of the book is we are using the book as a method to explain other knowledge, and that knowledge is going to involve pictures because of the nature of this knowledge. Like, if it's a craft book, you need to have pictures of the craft you're doing. Like, ain't nobody learning how to knit reading just words. You need pictures.
That would be a great experiment. Try and teach yourself knitting without any visual cues.
Oh, that's actually like old-time patterns and like guides for all types of craft things, especially like fabric and knitty kind of crafts. I've tried so many of them. I'm like, okay, I've bought all of the things, I can do this. I'm sitting down and not doing anything but this. I can't be distracted. And it's just, for me,
yeah, well, and a lot of those
impossible.
Well, and a lot of those old reference things they're not intended for beginners. They're intended for someone who knows what they're doing, as like just a written sort of reminder thing of like, here's the list of what you're supposed to do. There's a reason why with a lot of those crafts, what you did is you learned under someone.
Yeah.
So that you could see what they were doing and they could see what you were doing.
Yeah, because a lot of them is like, they just say, it's basically, so you know this complicated thing that you already know how to do. Yeah, make 6 of those, and they then make 7 of these other things. And I'm like, help.
Yeah, it's essentially it is a set of instructions, but it's a set of instructions that's intended for someone who already knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like hey, you know how to crochet. Here's a pattern. Do a chain of 15 double two-tog together down the line, and then you have someone who's who's just getting started is like, what's a chain and what's a double two-tog? I don't know what those words
exactly.
It's like, well, that's because this wasn't written for you.
It's really funny though when it's like also cooking books. If y'all have ever seen like people trying to follow a couple 100 years old recipes and stuff, it's quite entertaining. But
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was a. I've been corrupted by Tumblr because I've started so many sentences recently with, oh yeah, there was this Tumblr post. But no, there was this Tumblr post about people talking about how we don't understand a lot of things about old. Oh, it was about the recipe for concrete that the Romans had, and we couldn't quite work out what it was. And then somebody eventually worked out, oh, you're supposed to make it with seawater. But they didn't bother putting that because they were like, well, of course you make concrete with seawater. That's how you make concrete. So nobody bothered writing down that you use seawater. And somebody pointed out that we do stuff like that all the time. So, for example, if somebody in, a few hundred years, if culture is significantly different in that time, they look at a recipe we've got and it's like, it says, add 2 eggs. What eggs? Ostrich eggs? What?
Yeah.
Well, and then there's also, you've got
eggs?
things like
we just assume chickens.
Like use of words have changed. There was someone who tried to do an old recipe for lemonade, and one of the things that was on there was that you put lemon peel in it. But they were just kind of like, okay, so like, oh no, it was lemon rind, and it's like, so we're just shoving the whole thing in there. Well, the thing is, so they just put like the whole lemon, like outside of the lemon, in the water, and it's like, okay, but that's not really what they meant. In modern usage, what you would be looking more for is lemon zest, not shoving a whole lemon peel in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you there are recipes out there that use lemon peel, but it's not the same thing as lemon zest, technically, because lemon zest is broken up into smaller bits, which is easier for mixing. And then you've got other things like there was a bread recipe, I think, from the Middle East, where someone tried to make it and it was like, yeah, this doesn't taste very good. I could use more salt. And then it's like, I need you to take a look at what rivers are going through this area, and I need you to take a look at the salt content in the rivers from the water they would be. No, they are not going to be adding more salts to their dough. The water is already very salty.
It's so mind-blowing, those things to me. Like the things we can never know of our past. I was about to say our past selves. No. Past humans. Because just it was assumed.
Yeah.
In
Well, and I mean, there's a lot of
everything they
things that
did.
you just sort of. There's a lot of oral tradition that gets passed down and it just doesn't get written down. Or little things like, this is how it was written down, but I've made an adjustment because, like, my oven is a different size, or my pan is a different size, or I'm working at a different elevation. Both of my grandmothers do some baking. But one of my grandmothers was born, raised, and spent most of her adult life in New York, lowlands, near sea level. And then later in life, after all children had moved and gone to college and graduated, moved to Colorado, which is a lot higher elevation. And then none of her baking recipes worked out.
Aww.
The elevation is different, and now you're cooking in a place where you are landlocked instead of being driving distance from the sea. So she spent years adjusting her recipes to work in the mountains.
That's a lot of work. Like, I get mad just because the flour I bought just doesn't work this time because you bought the cheapest flour and it's not the same as you had last time. So you have to add like half a pound extra flour because it just soaks up the moisture.
Yeah, imagine going, my recipe didn't work. Why didn't it work? Oh, because of the wrong air pressure.
Yeah.
I got the wrong air.
Yeah.
Yeah, flour's a weird thing. If you think about it, the idea that it would be consistent is quite surprising.
And that we like not assume what is it when expect there it is when you expect these types of things to just work and be as it quote unquote usually is, as just it's the biggest deal if it's not how it usually is.
Yeah. So I had plans. I did things as it was written down. Why is it not working?
Follow the recipe to the letter, but the recipe doesn't take into account atmospheric pressure.
It's wild how much the taste of water can differ. You've been on holiday in a few places in Europe and it's always different. For example, British water is disgusting. Well, that's a good sign, because people are always surprised when I say that I hate the taste of water. So, if it's just British water...
I hate the taste of water too, but we have some of the best water in the world.
Oh.
Well, see, I've gotten sort of used to weird tasting water, and some people are just kind of like, oh, the water here is gross, and I drink it anyway, and I just don't notice. But also, I spent a couple of summers working at a scout camp near a place that is named after springs, mineral springs that are nearby. The mineral springs containing things such as sulfur.
Yummy.
Right.
Yeah, yummy. So once you get used to drinking that kind of water, everything else is just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
British tap water is absolutely awful. You don't blame me. Thank you. You can still blame me, though. Best water doesn't mean best tasting water. Yeah. Well, the thing about our water is it's just so full of chalk. So much chalk in our water here. Because I'm like right by the southeast coast, like by the chalky cliffs. So yeah, it's just like I remember in our old house. It's not so bad here, but in our old house, if you poured yourself a glass of water from the tap, it would have a head. It would have a head of chalk.
Oh no.
So yeah, I might just not like the taste of chalk.
I mean, fair.
Hey, Kiro! Just woke up. We're talking about water. Thank you very much. But here's some other things that what were made. Here is a cave old-timey harpoony thing. Resplendent with jewels and a stone and rope. Fun fact, I actually dreamed that you were watching this stream while sleeping. Ooh. Astral projecting into Twitch. That's a way to avoid mods. And also, some fun fleur-de-lis, floral weapon ideas. And baby bird. Looking frankly done with it. We haven't spun the wheel yet. No, we should do that now. Let's spin a wheel.
Oh, wow, it is past the hour.
We've been talking about so many things.
Yeah.
In fact, let's not spin a wheel. Let's spin 2 wheels. Good talk about chalk.
Good job, Doc.
Swoosh! Wheels! We have the wheels of Via! Whatever they're called. They're just wheels. Dunno. Spin! And we have... ooh. Macguffins!
Oh,
Yeah, no Macguffins yet.
our first MacGuffin.
Our first Macguffin! So Macguffins, if you don't know, they're things that do things. They're the key that opens the door, the princess that is returned to the king, the magical orb that casts aside the demons of Nufaflef.
It's the thing that does the thing for reasons.
Exactly. Specifically for reasons. In terms of locations, we have Plamps has the viaduct, Lewis has the caves, Giro has the floating city, Oobs has harbour. Everybody can do wizard MacGuffins.
Ooh, perfect.
Oh my word. I imagine they have a library full of MacGuffins.
You're gonna have to check it out with your library card. Make sure that you don't piss off the archivist wizard.
And make sure you start at the easiest section.
Yes. I have the Abyss. Jib has the Golden City. Dark has Forest. Christy has a Limbo. And Ragdoll has the World.
Oh, I think I might just focus on the wizards, because the world is a lot.
Also, the wizards are yours, so it would be understandable with this prompt.
Yeah.
A MacGuffin library.
I like the idea of a MacGuffin library. Because what does that mean? Are these MacGuffins that have been used in previous adventures by previous people? Then it'd be more of a museum than a library, surely. Maybe
it's like things...
Like, there's a fine line between a museum and a library, especially when you consider things like...
Now I'm imagining that there is a museum and a library that share the same building, and there is a line between the two. And if one or the other steps over that line, the other one's going to be furious.
I mean, the fun thing is, yes, actually, most museums... So most museums also have an archive in the back. And I mean, they're not like public archives that anyone can check things out from, but like people in the field will go to the library and be like, hey, I need to borrow your blank whatever in the back. We have an archive at the school of... It's a natural history archive, and we regularly get a couple of the other universities in the state that come over and like, hey, we need to borrow stuff from your natural history archive. So it's like, hey, we need to check out your plants. No, literally, we are checking them out, borrowing them, and we'll bring them back later.
Huh.
Plant museum?
Yeah, there's lots of samples of local grasses. There's an entire wall of bugs on pins. There's a couple of old... God, we have some old cabinets that are from like libraries where you'd have a catalog in them. But instead of card catalogs, you open them up and it's like freshwater mollusks. So yeah, other universities just come in and it's like, we would like to check out your mollusk collection.
Check out that mollusk collection. It's MacGuffins that are only used for reference. Exactly. Only no using the MacGuffin. Pure reference. For the Bisexual Ocean Abyss weapons, you can't remember if it was done yet, but was kind of toying with the idea of battle axes. Because it's often the buy a weapon whenever people think of weapons for sexualities. Yeah, you could have a double-headed axe, makes sense. Maybe made of coral or something. Ooh, which needs to be enchanted by a wizard so it doesn't break using the axe enchanting MacGuffin. Or possibly made from a creature's shell or something. Mace with a spiky shell, that's a cool idea. Dog agrees.
Doggy is scratching ear.
Oh, right, yes. Gonna scroll through the MacGuffin page of TV tropes. Not a bad idea. Did Plams have anything for the ocean? I remember Plamps did have some ideas for things to do with the ocean, and I cannot remember.
I remember like there being further and further down, and like no one's ever been to the bottom or something.
Yeah, Oobs did. I've literally just scrolled into it in the Discord. Oobs did have a character that's supposed to be near the bottom. They lie a lot, if I remember correctly. And they had a name. Oh, I have the page open, don't I? I have the the project via gallery, available now. What were they called? Nathair Denweir, apparently. A large serpent that was so evil it got banished to the sea and still lives there to this day. If you go deep enough in the abyss, they say you can hear its voice whispering lies to you. There you go.
Fun.
Fun. MacGuffin. Problem with the MacGuffin is the MacGuffin has to do something. And unless you know what environment it's going to do things in, it's difficult to know what to do the MacGuffin for. There's a flaw in this plan. You notice it's 16 weeks in. What could you do?
I mean, we sort of already knew this flaw when we were doing 16 symbols, because it's like, hey, we have a MacGuffin! We literally don't know where this plot is going.
Yeah, but that's the fun of 16 symbols, is to make it up, and then we've got to deal with what we made up later. Here, we don't have to deal with it, we can just forget it.
I mean, there's not supposed to be. I mean, I know we've broken the rule a little bit, but there's not supposed to be anything in the void, right?
In Limbo.
In limbo.
I don't know.
I feel like there's probably like different planes of Limbo, right? I don't imagine it's just one big infinite poppy field. I imagine it sort of phases.
What's it called? Impression.
Because otherwise, difficult to have a MacGuffin. If there's nothing to use a MacGuffin on.
The MacGuffin could also involve how we get to the void.
How do we use the blood pools?
I was actually thinking of like a hidden door, like up in not the sky, but like just in the void. Doesn't make sense. It's not in or on anything, which suits the wizard nonsense. And you have to find it, but you don't know you have to find it. So it just sort of happens.
See, I don't know if I like if I like it better if it's like when you've got like a door in the ceiling that leads up to like a crawl space or an attic or something, where it's just there's just a door there and you have to get down to get in. If it's just literally there's a door just floating there in the sky, not attached to anything. It's just there. We don't know why it's there. No one can get up to it. We're just going to leave it to its own devices.
There's a door like that in Dark Souls.
Oh.
If you go to the Duke's Archives, there is a door that the developers just left in the air. You can just see it up there. And people have gone to it. It doesn't do anything. It's just an asset that's been left in the sky.
Well, I thought of it of my own volition.
Yeah. I'm sure we could trace those ideas back to the surrealists and long before.
Hieronymus Bosch did everything before we ever were.
All the drugs. Trying to think, do we need what's the story of the Abyss? I guess that's the thing. You don't
No,
really
that
have a story
vine
at the
actually
moment.
went onto there pretty well. Sort of proud of that. I didn't do that on purpose.
Ooh, nice.
I literally just took the vine that I doodled off to the side and went like, hey, let's see if I can flip this upside down and stick it on the sword handle.
You
And it
did.
worked.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And it has a perforated line. For ease of tearing.
Can I render this?
Sure.
Yay!
No! Everybody's ideas are theirs and theirs alone. That's what this project is about. Isolation.
Isolation.
I figure of a small mechanical thing of like, the deeper you go in the abyss, the darker it's gonna get. You need a light source.
Yeah,
And
we've been talking about stuff like that before, actually, so that would be fitting. We need something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking.
But
'Cause
should it
obviously
be a sensible light source, or should it be something where you look at it and go, sure, why not?
Well, maybe I could. So, well, Chibi's already come up with the jellyfish people, and they help you with light sources and stuff. Let's show images because they're nice. Look, these serve as characters, light emitting MacGuffins. See, it explicitly says, and bouncy platform pads. They don't mind. There you go. They're nice. So it could just be them in terms of light. For some reason, my first thought was that there was a plant that grows down there that's bioluminescent, but rather than it's a plant that doesn't take kindly to you ripping it. So what you have to do is you have to get something the plant wants, and then it's just going to sort of like crawl along walls following you to try and get to it.
Oh, that's too sweet.
You got like the MacGuffin is just like a bag of plant food, or something, and that's how you illuminate.
Oh, it
the
ends
abyss.
up being a bullshit quest again when you're like, you end up not knowing why you're doing this, but you're making a lot of not quests, what's it called, services, friend, what's it called,
Fetch quests.
sorry,
No. Fetch quests. No.
it's not quest, it's because I've got that word on the brain. Now I can remember the Danish god, chain is
I don't know any Danish gods.
Yes. Come on, Google Translate. Favor. Jesus.
Favor.
I mean, what is a quest but a favor that you're being asked to do in a video game for?
Yeah, right. That's why I couldn't differentiate it.
I vote that we just rename favors quests.
Yes, please. But you have to do a lot of favors to get or do something you want. And you end up with this soggy bag of fish food or something. For this quest.
Yeah, and you're like, what do I do with this? What puzzle does this solve? I need illumination. How is this gonna help? And then you look up a guide, and it's like, the plants want it. Again, we keep coming up with just the worst ideas for the games.
It's become so fun though.
I mean, if there's something in the game that sort of hints at, hey, the glowing moss stuff sort of grows around these things.
Also, the
maybe it's not so bad. But yeah, we could rant all day about the very stupid evolution decisions that Pokemon has made that are just bad. And like things where it's like there's nothing related to the game that would tell you that this is a thing that you need to do. Like, there's some older games that can sort of get away with it because they would have things in, like, the game manual that you would get with the game. But
And
these days,
also
you don't really have game manuals, and a lot of things you can buy digital copies of. Although, I guess if the digital copy came with the digital game manual, because you've got some that are like... I've got a copy of, Psychonauts, digital copy of Psychonauts that also just came with here's a digital copy of the game manual that came with Psychonauts.
Oh yeah, I got a digital manual for the Elder Scrolls Arena, and I played that because that had a physical manual, and there's nothing in the game that tells you how to play it, so you need the manual. I think manuals are fun. I remember reading manuals for PS1 games as a kid.
Oh yeah, they're really neat. But if a game doesn't have a manual, but also nothing in the game tells you how things work, that's a problem.
Can
I
the
didn't
person in this game who gives you advice be called Emmanuel?
Yes, please. It's like
Yeah,
a
skip in a
reset.
manual.
Chibi says yes. We have the seal of approval.
Yes. If Chibi didn't like that idea, I would be worried.
Yes.
We now have Buff Wizard and Emmanuel as your here's how you do things.
Maybe that's Buff Wizard's name.
Was Buff Wizard the one that broke the fourth wall?
Oh, we've had so many characters in this. It's difficult to keep track.
Buff Wizard was something that Chibi drew a previous stream, but also it was just sort of decided that hey, if wizards are going to be sort of your here's how you do things, maybe Buff Wizard is just the one who instructs you how to use the buttons to do the fighty bits. But also, we don't know how the fighty bits work, so right now Buff Wizard's instructions are mostly get good.
Which feels appropriate.
That's good.
What sort of aesthetic would a wizard archivist
Dark Academia.
Yeah, I've just drawn this person and then realised that the perspective that I wanted to draw them in is different.
Aww.
Should have thought about
And
that
actually,
first.
now that I think about it, you might not even see the face of the wizard archivist because they might just be behind a giant pile of papers.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We need more inventive ways of hiding faces of wizards. And a giant stack of papers is a good one. They have a mask of admin. Okay, attempt number 2.
Hands, though, from behind, making postures and trying to communicate where you need to go.
There's just so many forms that have to get filled out and so many requests that are coming in. And it's just piling up on their desk, quite literally.
I was about to say something there that I thought was interesting, and then I realised that I made it up for a sketch. So, turns out that's not interesting. It might be interesting, but it's not true. Anyway.
Interesting factoid.
Factoid about the word factoid. Factoid is something that looks like a fact but isn't true.
Oh.
Well, that was the original. Obviously, people are now just using it to mean small fact or something. But originally, you know, it's a bit like a cuboid. It's like a cube, but doesn't have to be like it. Doesn't have to be a cube. Factoid looks like a fact, but doesn't have to be a fact.
I have no idea where I heard the word the first time. Obviously not school.
I think it's one of those words that fact.
Speaking of facts.
Speaking of facts, I need to add a thing to make sure I don't use the same fact twice. I haven't done that. It's just picking a random one up at the moment. Kiss, probably pronouncing it wrong, is Swedish for pea. Okay. Kiss, apparently. Swedish for pea.
KIS is Danish for kiss, which did confuse me a lot on the internet.
So in Denmark, the famous band Kiss only have 3 members.
Yes.
I'm guessing.
One of them.
One of them is blocked from entering the country.
Oh my god. Sorry. That was dark.
I keep forgetting how bodies work.
My body does that too.
Oh.
He doesn't know what he wants.
Wants all the things. Scratches and the attention and the food.
And also don't touch me.
Yeah, exactly. All the attention, all the scratches, and none of the attention. Leave me alone.
We've always joked that I actually adopted a cat. Because he does have a lot of the personality of a cat. And he has the looks of a guinea pig walrus.
Ah, one of those.
Yes. No, a guinea pig seal. Sorry. I don't know why the word walrus, which I can't say, always is on my mind. It's a good word.
It's a nice word.
Walrus.
It's like a shop where you buy wool. Sorry, no, it's a shop where you buy a wall. Wall are us.
You know, I think I'm just drawing my dad's old office here.
Hey! Reference. Always work from reference.
References are good, which is why I never use them. Really ought. Dog having fun?
His favorite toy is what are those called? When you buy plants, the little plastic containers that come in with holes at the bottom.
A pot?
That's also a pot?
Yeah, plant pot.
I mean, it's not a clay pot.
Yeah. It's not...
So if you just say pot, it's one of those cheap plastic pots.
Yeah, I don't think it has a special name. Not that I know of, anyway. Probably does.
I mean, it probably has a special name, but it's probably only known by people who do things a lot with those cheap little plastic containers.
But yeah, that's his favorite toys and always has been. He walks around them with them in his mouth, so it covers his face and he can't see where he's going.
Oh no!
It's probably his favorite toy because we've encouraged it.
Whoops.
Yeah. You know, when you have a tiny animal and everything they do is so cute because they're so tiny, and then at some point it's not like that anymore.
At some point, you got to deal with those actions.
Him stealing my pots isn't the worst of those cases, though, I think. It looks like he's standing from very far away. He's offering up a casserole.
Hey, I found his casserole underwater. Do you want it? Maybe that's what the plant really likes.
Oh, I made you this casserole. Please slide up my way. I'm sorry if all of my stupid thoughts are one, incomplete and I just stopped talking, and two, destroys the ideas you have for your work.
Bold of you to assume that's not how my brain works, and B, bold of you to assume I have ideas. That's not what V is about. V is about throwing words around until somebody repeats them back at you, and then you know that they weren't terrible. Do not apologize for joining in.
But I also know that I have many moods, and it can be a lot.
No, I can confidently say that at no point in your company have I ever considered you a lot.
Wow, I need to step up.
That's a good attitude to have. I've never thought of you as a nuisance. I need to try harder.
Do you have library card? Yeah.
Here's the question. In the game, does this character actually have a model, or is it just the desk?
I mean, if we don't have to make a model.
I mean, I think it's funny if they don't have a model.
Yeah.
Just like floating hand that comes up across the top.
It's like if you like boot up the game and like some kind of software where you can edit things or something. I don't know. And you look behind the desk, it's just two floating arms. Ooh, or if you clip through, that probably makes more sense.
Yeah.
Ooh, is that a tentacle? Picking up some paper.
I'm trying to draw like a hand holding a piece of paper, but it's hard.
Hands universally real hard.
With the rest of the fingies not there. I'm just speaking too soon. A thumb looks like a tentacle.
Yeah.
If you think about your arm and your hand and you take away the other fingers,
I mean,
just leave the thumb. It's a bit like a tentacle.
Yeah. Also, I have somehow lost my drawing glove while taking care of my dog, so that's why I'm not
Oh no.
It's also not a drawing glove, but
Do you use it to draw?
yeah.
Is it a glove?
Yeah.
There you go then. What more do you need? Don't let anybody tell you that it isn't a drawing glove.
I appreciate that it is not, in fact, my winter glove.
Yeah, there are some gloves that wouldn't work well for drawing gloves. I'm wearing what's technically a glove liner because my gloves would be too thick for me to be able to hold the pencil.
Yeah. I tried using my winter glove, a knit glove, with my iPad while I had misplaced my drawing glove at another point, and it actually like works as my hand. It activates the screen. So that was surprising.
That's the opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
It depends on what the material's made out of. There are some gloves out there that are made of a material where, basically you can still use touchscreens and whatnot while you're wearing the gloves.
Christy, is your winter glove made of human skin?
They're not made out of human skin. There's a special. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a special material where basically like the little because usually with the touch screens, if it's not just like anything can touch it and it'll go. It's a little electric thing. It comes up with skin touch.
I
And
thought it
so,
had those little rubber thingies, like on yoga socks, so you don't slippy slidey. I have a feeling that.
I mean, some of them have that material on them too. Like I've got a pair of gloves that have little things on the palms for grip. But there's a special material that you can make gloves out of so that the circuit stays, like the circuit connects when your finger goes on and activates the touch screen. But I don't remember what it's called. And I also don't have any gloves that I think are made using that material.
Now I'm more understanding as to why those gloves can be expensive.
Yeah, well, and usually they're not fully made out of them. I don't have any, but my dad has a pair that he can use touchscreens with, and it's literally just on the tip of his index fingers. It's not the whole glove.
It's the bits I assumed was those little rubber dots.
Like how Ethan, the faceless protagonist of Resident Evil 7 and 8, really has no face model. And no body too in this case, other than hands or whatever else the player sees. I have seen sort of zoom outs of RE7 and 8, and it's just no head. It's a good time. I have seen fan art of Ethan as a character with no head. Which is great. A pair of fingerless winter gloves that are meant to be worn over another pair of gloves. They're designed to be double layered at the palm, not just near the fingers. So you have some dexterity. You're using them to draw before getting a drawing glove. Yeah.
Nice.
That in the sleeve of one of your hoodies. I got back when I used to play the trumpet. I was in a little wind band as a kid. And wind ensemble thing, and we did some things where we went out and played Christmas carols on the street. And one day when we did that, it was snowing because it was winter, unsurprisingly, and so I bought some gloves. And turns out fingerless gloves really not good at keeping your hands warm when what you're doing is holding a trumpet, which is basically one big piece of very cold metal. And you're manipulating it exclusively with the tips of your fingers.
Yeah, I imagine that would cause problems.
So yeah, that was a very, very cold session performance.
Oh, I can't find anything. I was wondering if Ethan had a SpongeBob fan art.
SpongeBob fan art?
Because he's a sponge.
Oh.
It was fungus.
A fungus.
Apparently.
That's the same word in Danish.
I'm still mad about that.
Me too.
I find it funny that you just sort of accidentally.
I was making a joke. I thought it was funny.
No joke you make can be as weird as what happens in the Resident Evil games.
I can't believe no one's. Well, if it's not the same word, I guess, but.
But I also liked how it was. Like, I just assumed, as often happens with my jokes, that it just didn't land. It was like, whatever. People just carried on talking, and then I brought it up again later, and people were like, yeah, no, that's actually true. I was like, what? I thought I just made a bad joke.
Yeah.
I did. I made a joke so bad that it's canon.
No puns with that. That the non-native speaker can find.
With, a minute of Googling.
People say a bombshell with a joke, right? Or is that just the
I guess. I don't know. I associate it just with Top Gear, really. It's more traditionally a punchline. But,
well, their punchlines are jokes, so. Is it a shiny on the? I assumed fish food bag. That's an assumption.
it's like plant, fish food, fish plant.
Fish plant food.
It's supposed to be a leaf, in order to imply that this is plant food. But it's a bad leaf, so.
Shiny leaf. Yay, now it is leaf.
Kind of works. Made a good joke, just didn't realize how right you were. Therefore making it a bad joke, because it was supposed to be absurd.
I mean, it's Resident Evil. Everything's absurd.
True. I've been working on a video, which is not the Hitman video, which I'm also working on. Because I'm terrible at doing one thing. But I referenced the Resident Evil playthrough that we did. And I said, hey, future me in editing, get that bit from that VOD. So I had to go and download that VOD and find out which of the VODs it was I was talking about. I got the bit in the VOD, and inexplicably the bit just after I was getting mentions what I'm doing in the video. So like me from a year ago accidentally somehow managed to reference what I'm doing now, not realizing that I was gonna do what I'm doing now. Spooky. And also did it in a way that kind of dunks on me, which is kind of fun.
It's been living in your brain rent free, and you haven't even realized it.
I wouldn't mind, but the video is based on randomness, so I didn't know what I was going to do in the video until I started doing the video. So
You're getting really good at the Agio brushes.
I just have a brush. I just adjust opacity as needed.
It's just this looks really flowy. Where's
Christy, have you been drawing? Because on my screen, the only thing I see is the
Oh no.
is the plant thing
Oh,
and
no.
the.
That's all I've drawn.
Okay.
Okay.
This is going to be a
Cool.
regular thing now. It's just going to be asking, have you drawn a thing? Because it's not there. Okay, it's fine. Okay, we're fine.
Ah, wrong brush. This,
Ah, there we go.
I was trying to say, looks very watercolory.
A similar thing to what I do for Avonvale, actually. Just like lots of sort of gradual layers of a soft brush with low opacity. So I get, and that's trying to emulate watercolor. So
Yeah.
I thank you.
I mean, yeah, thinking about it, that is pretty much what you do with watercolor. You do.
Yeah.
You have your pigment in water, and if you want less pigment in a spot, you have more water, and if you want more pigment in a spot, you add another layer with pigment in it.
Yeah. But not too many layers, because then it starts to lift.
Yes. And also, if it's too many layers and everything is still wet, then it starts to run.
Yeah. And turn muddy. Looks like our protagonist did something bad in that cave and is running out.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea that as the plants get more interested in the food that you have, they start chasing you.
Oh.
And not in a kind of like, I'm gonna get you sort of way, but in a kind of like, we're gonna eat the food.
I
and
need
then they
the
won't.
food for light.
Exactly, then you won't have food anymore and it'll be dark. You just need more food, that's the problem. This is a conflict not born of aggression, but born of miscommunication. It's scary because you can't communicate with the plant.
He just want nummies.
More foods.
Oh,
Yeah.
chunky. Is
I like
this
how-
the librarian or another character?
I'm trying to figure out like if we were going to have. I mean, I think it's funny to just have the archivist in models as just a bunch of hands.
How many?
But I'm also trying to see if there's like some design I can do with it. I don't know.
I like the idea. I like the idea that the model is like 20 different hands, and you only ever see one at once, but it's always a different one.
Oh God, multiple hands.
Do they have multiple hands? Does the hand just keep magically changing each time it goes behind? Nobody knows.
How many lefts are there? How many rights are there?
Mostly left.
I mean, an archivist having multiple hands is probably a good design choice. Because you've also got like God, what's the name of that character in Spirited Away? The gentleman who manages the hot water and the bath salts and stuff. With the spidery arms and the little
Oh,
soot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
I imagine having multiple arms makes that job a little easy.
Yeah. Does that guy look like Mr. Eggman to anyone else? Dr. Eggman.
I mean, I've got
Dr.
sort of the broad shoulders and those little glasses there, so
Yeah.
yeah.
He
I
had the
could see that.
moustache. Well, I mean, broad shoulders, little glasses, and moustache. It could be Poirot.
That's true.
Is Poirot Dr. Robotnik? It's a game theory. Are they glasses or nostrils? Anyway.
No, they were intended to be like the little reader glasses. I just don't have any other features on the head because I don't know what other features to put on there. And
Sorry,
also, most of it would be obscured by like a hat or something.
a hobby of mine is taking a simplistic design for a thing and trying to reinterpret it in the wrong way. So I look at that and go, what could those be instead of glasses? Nostrils. They're nostrils now. Just a big nose. That's what I'm using my maths training for. I take my abstraction and turn it to poorly interpreting images.
Or creatively.
Creativity can also be used for bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to just in reference to libraries and such. I remember one of the first sort of theorems that I came across that had a name that wasn't just this guy's theorem. And I always liked the name of it, which is the Librarian's Nightmare. Which is to do with permutations, ways of shuffling things around, and basically the theorem says that any permutation can be achieved by a sequence of adjacent transpositions, i.e., a library can be completely reorganized into any possible ordering just by a succession of people swapping two adjacent books around. So if you pick up a book and then you put it one space out, if enough people do that, the library can be in any order by the end of the week, which is why it's called the Librarian's Nightmare. And I just really like that title.
I think a librarian doesn't. Guess what? My glove was where I could plainly see it and it wouldn't get lost.
Hooray! And you found it, so it worked. Am I going to go with this idea that some of them walk? I don't know, they're slightly creepy. Kind of triffid. Tempted to tell your older brother about that because he actually is a librarian. Yeah. Yes, people just coming in and swapping two books that are next to each other, the other way around. You do that enough, any book can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Although that does imply that you also are able to swap two books, one that's on the end of one shelf and one that's on the end of another, which is possible, but it's a little more of a leap than. At the very least, you can reorganize an entire shelf to a completely different order.
I mean, I've worked with enough kids to know that if you just leave them and let them put them wherever, you will have no idea where anything is by the end of the day. feel like I need to put some sort of designy thing right here, but I also don't know what sort of designy thing I want to put on there next. Whoops. I just dropped my stylus behind the couch. One moment.
Oh.
This is a good stream for
unfortunate.
losing. It's a good stream for losing and dropping things, I think.
I mean, there's a lot of room behind the couch, because it's technically a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a fold-out, so it needs room behind it to fold and not just bump into the wall.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
also
not
good-
like it's going to be hard to get in there. It's just, it's behind the couch.
Yeah. It's also good to have space like that so you can hoover. Or vacuum. Or sweep. I don't know.
Sweep.
Weep. Sweep. Yep, that's what this stream has devolved into. Me making strange noises. He says as if it was ever anything different.
Yeah, there we go. I now have my stylus.
Yeah, we don't really have a story for the Abyss at the moment, which is sort of difficult to make a Macguffin for. We have some stories for other areas. I don't know, what has stories? Because I want to, like, towards the end of this, I do want to do a kind of mini draw through where we sort of work our way through the plot of the game. Doodling bits.
I'm sorry, I was focused on my yum plum. What did you say?
Stuff. I was just saying that at the end of towards the end of this series, it would be nice to do like a kind of mini draw through where we just sort of doodle through the story of this. So it's trying to work out what places have stories already, and you know, we've got the floating city has a pretty solid story. There's the whole thing with the mafia in the harbour. Golden City's got its whole thing going on. Forest has the sort of ancient civilization. The wizards are doing what the wizards are doing. Limbo has life and death. Viaduct doesn't really need a story because it's just a way of getting from A to B.
It does though. It has cults.
It does have cults. I like the idea that they're just set dressing. What was it? The idea that the cult of the duct, they think they're important to the story, but they're not.
Also, Cult of Duck.
Cult of Duck is way more important to the story. There's the caves. We have, I mean, that's how we get to Limbo. It's also got its thing going on with the amphibians living in there and the ancient civilization that was there, people living in the ruins, and the horrible archaeologist, quote unquote, quote archaeologist unquote. Yeah, so I guess the Abyss is the only one that sort of hasn't been touched by story yet.
Except for like, is it called world building? Like this, what's it called? Description of the place is kind of a story in itself.
Yeah, we got some interesting, like, you got all the different sort of societies as you go down, and they get more antisocial as you go further down. You've got the thing living at the bottom.
And we've
obviously
got the one mini quest of we're going to help this very stupid, affectionate diver go
got
see
Vinny.
his mermaid girlfriend, who is a shark.
Vinny and Georgie.
Just straight up shark.
I guess that means there are more shark mermaids. Or different types of mermaids, I suppose. They don't necessarily have to be sharks.
Ooh, a day to design, a stream to design a shark maid. Design all of the shark maids. All the different kinds.
I'm guessing. I mean, there are jellyfish people. There are mermaid people. I'm guessing there are multiple different types of abyss denizens.
But we could have Shark Stream.
We could. Oh yeah, you did a mermaid as well, didn't you? With the little nudibranch friend.
That is Shark Week anyway.
Shark Week. But yeah, we need to flesh out the abyss, so we could have Shark Week. Also, wasn't there a... Oh no, that's May, isn't it? Mermay. Shark Week.
Ooh-ah.
Oh bugger, it's in July. We missed it. It says featured annually in July or early August. Well,
Missed that.
apparently
Oh, well.
there is also an affiliated Weekend. That's a thing.
It sounds like someone being drunk, saying weekend.
It's weekend.
Oh, that was from the New Year's thing that apparently only a couple of countries in Europe have for some reason. What's it called? That's old 30s or something. Play that got filmed once.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Dinner for one, dinner for two.
You sounded exactly like him.
What's there's no like only one line. Same thing as usual. Something
Same
like
procedure as always, Miss. I forget the name.
that. I haven't watched this, but I know it's a thing.
And the reply is always same procedures every year. I forget the name as well.
Jenkins. I don't know.
Jenkins.
I just made that up. Dinner for one, apparently. Two-hander comedy sketch. It has become a traditional viewing on New Year's Eve in European countries such as Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Estonia. That's at least 7 countries. Yeah, it's funny what become traditions.
I guess it wasn't actually a shark because it had gills. Whoops.
Who knows? It's fantasy is good. James. Apparently. Apparently the butler's name is James.
I guess so.
Miss Sophie and James, apparently. Sorry, that's looking this up on stream. Oh no! And we've been missing this masterpiece.
If you say that, I know what you're looking at.
It's Shark Week, everybody. This is the new Shark Week mascot. There's a pun in here about Hammerhead, but I don't know. Yum Plum. There's also a Yum Plum.
I was just drawing what I'm looking at. I wanted to draw something at least before stream ended, after finding my glove.
you did the cave of old-timey harpoony thing.
Yeah, that took the first, 20 minutes.
Yeah, but it was good.
Thank
Time is
you.
irrelevant. Lunchtime doubly so. That's also not relevant. Cool, we have things. We have librarian / archivist. We have there must be a joke involving fleur-de-lis and weaponry. And I can't think of anything. Is there a weapon that begins with Lee?
Rob Leafield.
No, it's drawn way better than that. I do like the idea of somebody just making a highly decorative version of Rob Liefield's drawings and calling them Fleur de Liefeld.
Oh no! Oh.
Yeah, we have that. We have Shark Week mascot Yum Plum. What's this? Is it a vase? Flower
Yeah,
thing?
that's just my house plant.
Oh, nice. And the cave old-timey harpoony thing. And we also have a wreath and some plants that are very hungry. They're peckish. They see the nice food. It's like catnip, but for plants. Plant nip.
Moth to a flame, but other way around.
Like a light to a bag of moths. That's what the food is. It's a bag of moths. And with that, we shall end the stream. Because apparently, it's 9:20. Or 10:20 for Christy. And no idea for Ragdoll.
22 for me.
Ah. Flood the weaponry? Yeah, that works.
Play the weaponries. I shouldn't have said that with an accent.
Things. What was I saying? I was saying a thing. Yes, it's stream. And the stream will continue on Tuesday with Neo, because it's still happening. We are now in the second bonus stream. We fought a horrible centipede man. He didn't stop clicking. But he's gone now. It's fine. So yeah, more Neo. Neo's it's good. It's a good time, but it keeps going. We will eventually. Hopefully, we'll finish it by spooky season. I have so many spooky season games, and none of them are scary. Yeah. Hope everybody enjoyed and had a lovely time. I look forward to seeing Macguffins, because I know everybody's going to work on it real hard. I definitely am, I'm sure. I guarantee I will have reams of illustrations.
I mean, there's nothing that says you can't draw something just related to Macguffin. I have just drawn an archivist that you can check out Macguffins from.
Exactly. So in order to acquire the Macguffin, you must first interact with the Macguffin, which is the archivist of the Macguffins. They are a living Macguffin.
And get a library card, which is also
MacGuffin.
a MacGuffin. Get the MacGuffin to get the MacGuffin.
Exactly.
MacGuffin.
Potentially the only MacGuffin in a game that has the word MacGuffin written on it. Sings Neo ending story. Yes, so we'll continue.
Oh god,
with...
is that just going to be the name of the archivist? This is the wizard MacGuffin.
Yes, Macguffin. Also, apparently CC doesn't know the word MacGuffin and keeps saying McGovern.
Well, I hadn't heard of it either.
MacGuffin. Okay, it does know MacGuffin. I'm just saying it weird, I guess. I'm sure this is calibrated to a particular American accent or something. I know I mumble, but not that bad. Macguffin. Hi, my name's Macguffin. No, my name isn't Mark and Gavin. Anyway, yes, thank you very much for coming along. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back on Tuesday. This has been Project Via, signing off.
Bye.
Off.